Alright, so I've been using the M1 MacBook Air for a solid year now, and it's been my daily driver. Before this, I was using Windows Desktop, and this has replaced it, and it's even more powerful. So let's get into it. So the performance, I've mostly been using it for school and some game development, video editing, and programming. And it handles that stuff really well, and it never gets hot. It only gets hot if I use it for like 5 hours at once doing something intense. I got the base model with 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage. It's the one I would recommend, but if you're doing programming or more intensive stuff like video editing especially, I would highly recommend getting the 16GB model because the message keeps popping up that it's out of RAM. So as I said, this thing has been my desktop replacement for the past year, and it's handled all my tasks really well. And with the insane power efficiency of like Apple Silicon, the battery life, literally I haven't charged it in 3 days and it's still at 16% right now. So the battery life lasts forever, and it's insanely powerful for how small it is. So I'll talk more about performance in a bit, but I just want to talk about build quality. So as you can see, I have a debrand skin like all tech nerds. I thought it would protect it more. I'm the kind of person that is usually pretty rough with their devices, and when I have my computer in my bag, I slide a bottle in and take it out, and when I slide it in, sometimes it chips the corners. And I think a lot of people have experienced this with MacBooks, but I just wanted to mention that if you're getting this, I would recommend like a full case, not a debrand skin, to just protect it from that. So I'll get into the screen and keyboard now. So the screen, it's amazing. It's very bright. You can use it outside pretty comfortably, like if you're sitting in the shade. If you're directly in the sun, you probably can't use it like most laptops, but it's relatively bright, very color accurate, and the resolution is pretty good as well. It's about 1440p. So in terms of the keyboard is very good. I can type comfortably on this, and it literally took me like a day to get used to it. You can also plug in a dedicated mechanical keyboard like this one, but I prefer to just use the built-in keyboard because it's really good. And the last thing for build quality is the ports. It's got 2 USB-C ports and a headphone jack on the other side. So now I want to get into the general performance for game development and the general M1 kind of stuff. So all of them have the same benefits of like the insane power efficiency and the like really good screens, all that kind of stuff, which is great for game development. And like the power efficiency, like I just mentioned, is like the big factor. Because if you're a student, you can use it for like multiple days without charging it, and it's powerful enough to replace a desktop and get all your work done on it. I'll provide some Geekbench scores and that kind of stuff, comparisons on the screen, but that's not too useful. I'll just be talking about my general experience. I sometimes edit videos or program for like multiple hours straight, and this thing, if you use it for like 2 hours of doing something intensive, it never gets hot. But after like a longer session, maybe 5 hours or 4 hours, the table sometimes gets hot. I've had one time when the keyboard was actually getting slightly warm, and that was quite strange. I haven't experienced that with a laptop yet. But yeah, so the computer I was using before this was a 6th gen i7 CPU with a 1050 Ti and 16 gigs of RAM and an SSD and that kind of stuff. The next question you may be wondering is, can you play games on this? If you're a student, you might be playing games in class. I actually downloaded Minecraft while at school during history to find out, and you can run it at around 100 FPS if you get Optifine. I'll have some footage of that. I haven't tried any other games, but it should be able to run simple games pretty well. I don't expect anything insane because it does have integrated graphics that are not very high end. So you may also be wondering whether or not you should buy the MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, or the 14 or 16-inch MacBook Pros. If you're a student, I would just recommend the base model MacBook Air. This thing is very good. Highly recommend it. It's a great computer. The battery life lasts a long time, and just get the base model for it. Or wait until the next generation MacBook Air, because that might be coming out within the next year. But if you're getting a MacBook like now, just get a MacBook Air. This thing's amazing. If you're like a professional working with like 8K files, video editing, or like more intensive graphics or that kind of stuff, then I would recommend getting into the M1 Pro and M1 Max 16-inch or 14-inch MacBook Pro, just because those have much better graphical performance. The CPU is not the main thing slowing it down, it's mostly the graphics, so consider those if you're doing more graphically intensive work, or if you want to play games. Like I saw Dave 2D's video where he played Overwatch at like high settings on the 120 Hz screen, so that's there as well. Yeah, so that was my review on the M1 MacBook Air and the general M1 MacBooks for game development and general use as a student. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe because I make weekly videos on tech, game development, programming. So if you want to learn about that, stick around because it's a fun time. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.